Here we are, Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up number 7. At some point, I'll run out of fingers where I can't do that before each show. This is, for those of you that have never tuned in, the weekly wrap-up of my life. I do a blog called Initial Impressions 2.0. The blog that corresponds to this particular podcast would be number 41. And so I go over that, but we talk about it. There's a lot more stuff as far as videos, pictures, things like that to make it more interesting. I've said constantly that I'm trying to keep this podcast 20 minutes. We're going to try again this week and fail first, as is the case. Oh, if it explodes, I'm going to be so mad. Nope, no explosion. Sweet. I mute the sound so you don't have to hear like ASMR swallow noises. That's kind of... bleh. This week's been a big week. Halloween, my birthday. These videos go up on Mondays. I record them on Fridays because it takes a lot of work to edit audio podcasts, video podcasts, other content. It takes a lot of time. So in the last week, Halloween has passed. I finally went and took some creepy photos with my little mini pumpkin here. He's got a pretty good face. I don't know if I'm going to have this thing on weekly until it's destroyed, because it may get to be kind of a boring joke. But right now, it's like off to the side. You'll have to imagine it like you can hear me. The sound of the pumpkin. It's over there, I swear. So I went to a cemetery in Harwich. It's right off of the Cape Cod Rail Trail. Those of you that are from the area will probably be able to picture it. I'm putting up photos and videos anyway. But those of you that don't live in this area, it's very local and specific jokes. The cemetery is good for running. It's kind of got a circular pattern around the outside. I liked it because I could park in the parking lot nearby and walk a couple hundred feet. And I'm in the cemetery at sunset for sunset photos. I used my selfie stick. I used that and shot some video, as you could see, of the pumpkin. The best part is one of those, I couldn't write it any better. Sunset's early now. We've just passed daylight savings time when this goes up. And about 6 o'clock, it's starting to get dark out. And I'm way over on the other side of the cemetery from where I parked. And I'm walking around with this, and I'm walking around with my selfie stick. There's a church nearby, and the church starts playing this, bells and organ music. And it's just echoing through the cemetery. It's fall, it's dusk. It was very creepy and surreal. I wish I had recorded it. Of course I didn't. That was one I was like, well, I'll have to picture it, show it on the webcam podcast and see if people can imagine. When it comes to nature on Cape Cod, I've seen a lot of everything. Where I live across the street over there's conservation land. So in the yard, we get coyotes. We have loads of turkeys, rabbits, of course. Every now and then some owls, and a couple times foxes. I've seen foxes everywhere, but not during the daytime or out in the open or just in a parking lot. That leads into this scene here. I was pulling into a beach parking lot in Yarmouth on the south side, Nantucket Sound side, and there was this fox just standing there. And I couldn't understand. First I thought maybe it was sick. And so when I pulled up, I rolled my window down and I was speaking very calmly. Like if I spoke excitedly about seeing a fox, it might run away. But it didn't move. It twitched its tail a little. You could see in the video. It wasn't scared. So I drove a little bit away, 5 or 6 parking spots away, and I parked, and I was going to walk down and get some more pictures of it, but it ran under a fence into a next door. There's a resort there. So I don't understand. People were saying it's common to see foxes out like that. I'm used to seeing them at dusk or near forests and wooded areas, not in the beach parking lot, just standing there like it was the guard at the shack waiting to take your money. Oh yeah, and why I was there at that parking lot was to shoot slow motion videos of my pumpkin dropping pine needles on it. I have another one that was when I mentioned before about the cemetery. I was dropping leaves on it in slow motion. I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. It's very artsy, so I like doing that. Boy, this was a few months ago in the actual blog. I wrote a post about always check the expiration dates on things you buy because you just never know, especially foods. This week, I was in a local supermarket. I won't name them because it doesn't paint them in a good light. But I was walking around looking for, I like ready to drink protein shakes a lot for breakfast because it's quick and easy. And I saw some that were on sale on clearance. That doesn't necessarily mean they're expired. It just means they don't sell well. So the supermarket's trying to get rid of them. And I see these ones like, oh, on sale and clearance. It was like $6 for 4. So I'm like, sure, I'll take them. There's the mistake. Look first. Because I got home, put them away in my fridge. Didn't think of checking the date on them even then until the next morning. I got up for work and it was an early morning shift. So I don't have time. Like if something went wrong, I couldn't get another breakfast. It's like, here's what I've got. Eat it quick and go to work so I can sleep in as long as I can. Turns out those protein shakes were expired by a month. I should have known when I tried to shake it up and it didn't make like a shake noise. It was like solid, congealed, whatever stuff is in there. This is the second incident at that same supermarket. So months ago, if you don't read the blog, I had bought these scalloped potatoes. I love them. They're kind of like what my Nana used to make years ago at holidays. So I got them. I came home and I was like, ooh, I'm going to have these with, I don't know what it was, maybe a steak for dinner or something like that. Great. And I open the bag and I get the scalloped potatoes out. And I didn't check the date until I even opened the package and I looked and I'm like, oh man, this doesn't look good. And it turned out not only was it expired, it was expired by like 6 months. So you can imagine what it looked like. It's like, so I had to throw it in the trash. That supermarket needs to step up their checking if things are expired so that idiots like me don't buy it. One of these times I'm going to not pay attention. I'm going to eat it and get sick. I guess it would serve me right, though. Check the dates on your food. God's sakes. A surefire way, you can tell my sarcasm, a surefire way to get me to be friends with you is by begging me on social media to take you out on a photo trip. Now, this is not having to do with any people I actually know. This is a random stranger on Threads, the Instagram app. It's like not only is it the second time that this random person has begged me, it's like ordering me. You need to take me on a photo trip with you. I'm like, A, who the hell are you? And B, no. But it's the second time that she has begged me to take her on a photo trip. And it's like, for a total stranger to be that brazen to just like order you like that, it's kind of weird. Like they have to have a screw loose. But that's what the block button is for. I will say I have not blocked her yet. I just haven't responded. Third time's a charm. If I get another, you need to take me on a photo trip with you, she's going to be out the door. God, it's just weird. Would any of you do that? And I'm not talking about like being kind of fanboy, fangirl with some celebrity, like, oh, I'd love to meet you or something like that. I can understand it unless you go to their house. But just any random stranger on any social media app saying, I need to come and meet you, it's like, a little bit weird. As the kids would say, a little bit sus. Good story here. So I had a book event this week. I spoke about my Searching for the Lady of the Dunes book. I mentioned it last week when I talked about me and producer Frank Durant, who did the Lady of the Dunes documentary, our excursion. If you didn't see that, go watch episode 6 last week. Anyway, I had an event at the Eldridge Library in Chatham. It's always a great place to go. The people that work there are great. I never have issues setting up my equipment. I'll have a presentation on my laptop, which is what I'm recording this on, and I bring my stuff, get set up. I've had experiences in the past where everything that could go wrong has gone wrong with a book event. So now I'm of the mindset I need to get there super early, usually 45 minutes early, just in case everything goes wrong. There's at least time to try to salvage it. I always try to make the events as fun and engaging as I can for those that come to see me, because I never could have imagined when I was younger that I would create books or content and that people would tune in to watch, tune in to listen, or come out to see me speak about it. Now, being as engaging with people as I am at these events, sometimes it leads to interesting stories like this one. The Searching for the Lady of the Dunes event is longer. It's like an hour almost of me speaking, which is not because I like to hear myself talk, but it's because there's a lot of info and I need to make sure that I don't leave a whole lot of loose ends. Because if people don't know the story and they're following it and I glaze over a few things that aren't important to me, then you start to get questions. The one that happened this week, I get done and I'm always like, are there any questions? There was one man there that out of all the questions that were asked in general, he probably had 75% of them. And it's because he just kept going. And it was kind of like low-key entrapment he was trying. Because at the speaking events, I talk about the Lady of the Dunes. She was identified as Ruth Marie Terry Halloween Day 2 years ago, 2022. I give my opinions on what happened to her. Because as far as police go, she was murdered by her third husband, Guy Moldovan. And he looks very much like a murderer. His job, quote unquote, was antiques dealer, which sounds like a Sopranos style front. And so my opinion is Guy Moldovan came to Cape Cod. His dad had a lot of real estate in Provincetown, so he had money and connections. And my thought is that he came here with Ruth, his wife, and they were in Provincetown, and he was here to do some kind of deal, and she either heard or saw something she shouldn't, and he had to then remove her. The police say he's the suspect, case closed, and he's dead, so... But the problem is, knowing the roads to get out to the dune shacks in Provincetown, the province lands, it's very hard to get out there. People that have lived there and visited the dune shacks for generations say even if you know the roads, you still have a chance of getting stuck. Guy Moldovan, I don't think, knew the province lands, dunes, and the roads. So my opinion was there's probably 2 accomplices that helped him get her out there. In the book, there are 4 names, first names, no more information. It was stuff we were given for the documentary, for the book. But with true crime, you can't just go throwing accusations out. So in the book, I'm very cautious with what I say. I learned what you can and can't say and not get sued. This guy at my event was really hammering home, trying to get me to name names, trying to get me. He actually said, if we get the book and we look through and you have those names, if we guess who it is, will you tell us? I'm like, oh man. So I kept having to preface it with, it's my opinion, this is that. And saying it's true crime. I'm not going to just throw things out there. And it's like, I enjoy interacting with people, but when it's pretty obvious that you're trying to get me to say something, like I didn't know if he had a pocket recorder and he would get me to say, yeah, it was so and so, and he's still alive, and this is where he lives. And then suddenly it's gotcha. And then this podcast is my last one before I get sued. But yeah, nice guy. He didn't even buy a book, so hell with him. So daylight savings time, I mentioned it that it was a few days ago from when this episode goes up. And, you know, sunset is now going to be at 4:30, and it's very sad and depressing. But on November the 2nd, so 2 days ago from when this goes up, sunrise was at 7:15 a.m. There was one day this past week at work that it was rainy, cloudy. So it was very dim light outside, even at past 7:30 in the morning. It looked like the sun hadn't risen yet. And it reminded me of a story long time ago in 2001. I took a bus from Las Vegas to Hyannis. It was 3.5 days going across the country. It actually kind of gave me a love of travel and such, although doing it by bus wasn't great. It was good enough. Anyway, along this trip, we stopped off at a town in Nebraska called Ogallala. And when we got there, we must have been, they were in mountain time, and we were right on the central time zone line. I don't know what it was, but when we got out of the bus to go into the bus station, it was like 8 o'clock and it was still not light out. And then I walk into the little bus station. Ogallala is small. Its population is like 4,000 maybe. So I go into the bus station, and it's very much what you would imagine a 1950s bus station would look like. The vinyl topped red and white checkerboard tables. And I'm looking around at that, and I'm looking at the darkness outside, and it pops in my head like, oh my God, I think our bus crashed and we're in like purgatory, like it's the Twilight Zone. And I mean, it wasn't. I had also at that point on the bus trip become very good friends with the super deluxe sleeping pills. So I think a lot of my memories from that trip are clouded with these pills. But yeah, Ogallala, their bus station in 2001, looked like something out of the Twilight Zone. And my favorite memory of that town for years later was how my Nana would laugh when she said the name of it. Like she couldn't believe it was a real town. So I'll always have a soft spot for Ogallala, Nebraska, because it made my Nana laugh. And their bus station looks like it's purgatory where you'd go when you die. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's not the same now, but back then and in a sleeping pill induced haze, it was. But let's finish up talking about Halloween. It passed on Thursday, early morning. It was cloudy at first. It got nice. It was 70 degrees out. And first thing in the morning, I grabbed my pumpkin right in front of my face. See it? I grabbed it and I said, I'm going to get a before sunrise photo and video in a cemetery because that's how I roll. So I went to this cemetery in Brewster, drove deep into it so that I could be in there and people wouldn't notice because it was 20 after 6. It was still dark. Like I said, sunrise was at 7:15. So it was not exactly pleasant surroundings being Halloween morning with all the graves. And so I shot the video, me with the pumpkin. If I didn't have to go to work, maybe I'd have done a longer form video, take my phone and do some B-roll footage, etc. The funniest part, and you can't tell it in the video, is me trying to hold my pumpkin in one hand and my selfie stick, which it's got a little bit of weight to it. When you extend it, if you try to hold it with your hand, you need strong wrists. I guess I don't have as strong a wrist as I used to. I, I don't know what the hell that means, but I'm trying to hold the selfie stick and the pumpkin and film. I'm like, God, all this for a video on Halloween morning. But it was good and I enjoyed it. I didn't dress up for Halloween, if any of you were curious. Me dressing up on the show last week, that was more than I did at work this week. They were not happy. But this year's Halloween was a fun throwback. So I stopped at my mother's house on the way home from work and got to watch the original Halloween like I do every year. That's like a tradition of mine. But I got to watch it with my sister, my nieces, my nephew. They were all in and out. But for me, I was thrilled. It was a nice get together, I guess. We don't all get together as much as we used to. So having that many family members together, for me, being old and now very sappy and nostalgic, I loved it. But the thing was, when we got done with the movie, my sister Ashley, my niece Kaylee, they're sitting outside giving candy. And I said, how's it going so far? It was like almost 7:00. And they said it was less people than they'd had last year. And it was kind of sad. And then I looked around and it was like a movie moment. Everywhere I looked, there were kids and parents, dozens, for real dozens. I said, oh my God, look at them all. It's like they heard you say there's fewer people than last year, and here they all come. And so it was, 65 degrees out, and we're outside, me, Ashley, Kaylee, my niece Emma, my nephew Landon. We've got decorations, and the little kids are coming up, trick or treat, and it was just fun. It was one of those that I was hungry and I needed to go home and have dinner, but I kind of wanted to just stay there and be in that moment with them. When you get older and people aren't around as much as they used to be, when you get those moments, it means a lot more. And I definitely appreciated it, but I kind of wish I had stayed a little longer. But yeah, that wraps up a very eventful week. I mean, my birthday was fun, did like a photo trip and such. Halloween was fun. The event for my Searching for the Lady of the Dunes book was fun. Check out the actual full blog. I've told you I can't do the full blog on here. I do Clipchamp is what I use to record these, and it's actually come out pretty good, but they only give you 30 minutes to record. So I have a timer essentially at the bottom of the screen counting me down. And sure, I'll edit out some of the foolishness, but still they're going to end up being long form podcasts, and I still can't do the full blog. So go and read the Initial Impressions blog. If you want to become a subscriber on Patreon to support my content, all my work I do, this podcast, my other YouTube videos, the audio podcast, check them all out. You don't have to be a subscriber on Patreon. Sharing my work, it does wonders. You'd be surprised. That's the best way you can help a content creator, is spreading the word about what they do. The funny thing is that I've tried to get better at narrowing down how I do my stories on this podcast. And I'm a natural storyteller, and it's hard to keep these short, but it's also, these are a lot of work to edit. When you see pictures and different things come up on the screen, every single one of those I've got to meticulously edit. And I'm not crying and I'm not patting myself on the back, but it's a fact. If I want to do this, I have to put in the time to make them right. So next week will be the 8th Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up. I hope you've enjoyed these. If you have, check out the rest of the videos in the playlist, or, spread the word to others. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure I've had a good track record of fun things, interesting things, random things happening to me in my life. So next week's Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up will probably be just as chock full of fun as this one was. But until then, I have been Christopher Setterlin. I'm going to finish my energy drink. It's not 5 hour because they won't sponsor me. And I got my pumpkin there, and I'll see you next time.